Chapter 7, Loops. For each. For each method. For each object. Continue. Break. While. Do. What is a loop? A loop is like a ninja. A ninja never gives up until a certain condition is reached or achieved. A loop will keep on repeating a statement until its condition is met. A loop is like a ninja. All right. Let's talk about loops. All right. So 7.1 for each. So for each just really means for each object in an array. This is an array, and these are objects in the array. Okay? So when we think about it, for each object in the array, I want to execute a certain statement. This is going to be that statement. Okay? And when you do a for each loop in this sequence, remember when I talked about automatic variables is the $_? In this method, or this approach, it's not going to be that way. You are actually specifying that automatic variable. So this is the automatic variable. You're saying for every name in the group of names. So what's going to happen is this is coming from that, and then each name, right, that's in green is coming over here or over here. Okay? So when we run this, you're going to see the name as well as the length. Now you're going to notice that here I actually did a $name. That'll work, but if you need to specify sort of a property within a certain name, like .length, you can't do it this way. It won't work because it's the way the you have to escape a certain character, and so in order to do it inside a string and specify a variable name, you got to reference the $ parentheses and then parentheses here. Okay? Just keep that in mind. For numbers, let's look at the numbers here. For each numbers in 1 through 20, so as you can see, we didn't actually specify a variable for each. Like in this one, it was for each name in names. This one is number in 1 through 20. The dot indicates 1 through 20, or you could do 1 through 30, right? Or 1 through 5, okay? So 1 through 20 is what we're indicating, and we want to write that number inside, okay? Like the last example, it's going to be the same premise, but this time, if you see, it's a little bit different. We're creating the array, and then we're doing the for each loop, and then we're adding the numbers to the array. So if you do this, it should start off as 0, and then value of array prior to loop is number, and then we're going to loop it. So number is 5. Why is it 5? Number 20. Oh, let me clear it real quick. It's the residual stuff from the prior one. Equals 0. All right. So the value array is 0, and then now we are looping and we're adding numbers to it. Okay? And I'll put numbers, right host, the value of the array after the loop is number. So the value of the array prior to the loop is 0. We want to go through the array, and then the value of the array after the loop is 20. Because remember, we're not adding each item to the array, we're adding the number. Okay? a typical use of a for loop is to operate on a subset of the values in the array. So, okay, what this means is there will be situations when sometimes you have to specify. If you've done programming, you're kind of familiar with the I equals 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus till you meet this condition. All right. And then it'll iterate using this, right? +1, +2, whatever. This is plus plus. So when you run this, it's sort of a static condition. You usually wouldn't do this. You would rather do something like this. When you have an array, you don't really know how many objects are in the array. So then when you do a for loop and specify the array, you don't really care if it's 10 objects, 20 objects. You want to loop through all of them, okay? So you don't have to actually, this is actually going to be might cause errors or might cause problems. So you don't want to do this unless you want to specify those static values. Section 7.3 for each method. It says version, it has to be a version greater than 4.0, so make sure to have that version. What this says is for 1 through 10, and again, you could put this in any number. This is just manually specifying that range. And then you do a period, then you do for each, then you run the statement, right? And it's in one string, but if I was to break it down so you can kind of understand it a little bit better, it would look like this. Something like that. Does that make sense? This is the opening the parentheses, this is closing the parentheses, and this is the for loop that occurs within that. Okay? So 1 through 10, we want to spit that value, and then we want to times it by itself. See? This one times it by itself. Remember, it's an automatic variable, right? And we want to multiply by itself. So 1 will be the first one. And let's do this. So you just know, right? Host 1, and then we'll do this dollar times that equals times that. I don't know if this will work, but let's see. I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna put this right here. What happened? Let's see. Okay, here we go. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4. 3 times 3. So you kind of see that flow. All right. I'll actually save this so you can have it. All right. 1 through 10 dot for each. Again, both will have the same output. What are they doing? They're omitting the parentheses. Oh, okay. So you see I had a parenthesis right here? You don't actually need that. You can actually just do it like this. No parentheses required. Oh, wait. That's why you need parentheses. Yeah. Unexpected token. Unexpected token. Can I do it like this? All right, that'll work. Can I do this? All right, that'll work. Can I do this? Okay. All right. So that'll still work. You bake no space. Can't have a space. That's what it's saying. But you don't need a parentheses. All right. So again, you can copy that, paste it here. Got the same thing. 7.4 for each object. So for each object, exactly like it says, for each object, and then you run the code. So the object right here, and then you do for each object, and then you run the code block. It's the same thing as for each, but you're doing it with a pipe. See, it's coming from a pipeline. So anytime that you're working from a pipeline, you can do for each object after the pipeline. You can't do a dot for each after the pipeline, but you can do this, and it's the same thing. So let's copy that, and maybe I'll stick it right above it. But shoot. Sorry about that. Let's put pipeline for each object. See? Right? Understand? It's the same thing. I'll include it for you. All right. The next one is, yeah, this is another example. Names. Here's the names for each object. Hi, my name is that. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Again, this is a array because it's a @ sign with an open parentheses. If you do hashes, it's going to be a bracket. Okay, with key value pairs. For each object has 2 default aliases for each or their percentage sign. So this is the same thing as that. Okay? Both the same. Advanced usage. So there will be times when you want to kind of control or group certain statements within a loop. And if you do want to kind of have a begin, first do this, then do a process, and do an end, it'll execute it in that flow. There will be times when you want to kind of control that flow, and then when you get it, you can kind of do things with it. So yeah, this is exactly like I said. It's advanced. It's not really required, but there will be scenarios where you might need to leverage this, based on the use case. All right. So in this scenario, let me break it down. So you're saying, for Amy, Bob, Celine, and David, I want to take for each object, I want to do this one, and I want to execute this code block. Then I want to take that, I want to add to the results, hi, my name is $_. Then at the end, I want to count and output as well. And then output the results. Okay? So when we run that, total messages is 4. Total messages is actually here, right? And that's the end, right? And then here's the results. So do you see what happened? This happened first, and then the results happened next. But at the end, this is actually what's, it actually does the right host with the results, okay? If you do right host in the beginning, and then you do something right here too, adding, creating and storing message. It'll first do the beginning statement, and then it'll store each of those messages. The total message gets output, and then 4 lines. All right? All right, 7.5. Continue. So this is interesting. There might be a situation where if something matches something, you don't want it to do something. Maybe it has a certain name in the property. Maybe it has something, but in whatever case, there will be a situation when you're looping through and you don't want to touch certain items. This is when you would use that, right? So if you look at it, this is a while loop, and a while loop is first it starts off with I equals 0. We're gonna while I is less than, LT is less than 20, I plus plus, and then from there, if I is equal to 7, continue. Then after that, you write host I. So you're writing the value I every time, except when the value is equal to 7. So let's look. As you can see, I iterates, and then 7 gets ignored. Okay? So there may be a situation when you want to ignore something or not do something. The continue statement is what you would use to kind of take it back to the top and not execute the next string, which is here. So again, the continue, when this condition meets 7, it'll go to continue, and continue will flip it back onto the top. So then this will not run. Okay? Break, the break operator. There will be times also that you want to break the loop. An example is error code. Maybe you get an error and you want to break and take that error and do something with it, or do something, maybe output it to a file. So maybe while there's no error, you want to do it, and if you see an error, then you want to stop the script, right? That's a common use case. So let's break this down. I is equal to 0. And while I is less than 15, I want to, iterate or add 1 to it, right, to I. If I is equal to 7, I want to break. So it's not continuing, right? Or going back to the top. It's breaking the whole loop. And the moment it breaks, 15 would never be reached because 7 would break that loop. Okay? See? The moment 7 is reached, it breaks a loop. You can also do a break label. What a break label is when you want to break it, you can call sort of, anything placed in front of that loop. You can call it. So if you run this, you have it iterating, and then the condition is while j is less than 15, and if k is greater than 100, break the main loop. Okay, so you're basically breaking the main loop if k is greater than 100. So it just keeps iterating until it reaches 100. See? And then it finally breaks. This is sometimes used if you don't want it to go too far. You don't want it to go, you don't want it to go far, and so you put this condition, and then you break that main loop. Okay. Let's see. All right. Where was I? Okay, main loop. All right, while loops. So while loops will keep doing the statement or executing the statement until the condition is true. Or so if it's true, it'll keep running until it's false, until it's not true. I'm sorry, until it's not true. So in this example, if we look, we have I equals, let me actually clear it. Sorry about that. We have I equals 10. Okay, and when I equals 10, I is greater or equal to 0. Okay, and we're not adding a value to I. We're actually right here. We're actually subtracting minus. So we're subtracting 1 digit from I every time this loop runs, and eventually it'll hit 0. Okay, so when it hits 0, it's done. Do while is a little bit different because it'll execute the first command, or first it'll run the loop once, and then after that it'll keep iterating. Okay, so the while loop, it will check that condition, or and then if it's false, then it won't run. Whereas the do while will run it once, and then as long as it's true, it'll maintain it. Okay, so this is not a do while, but it's going to be the same premise. You see right here, you're executing this string, and then you're doing the while loop, right? Of getting that process of Notepad and the error action. And then if that process is still true, then you're going to execute the string again. And you'll keep doing it until it's not true. So you actually just do a do while loop. You put the code block, and then you do a while right after it. So you'll do a do while, and then you'll run the code, and then while that condition is still true, the code will keep running. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing as this, except you don't have to call that string in the beginning. Do until is the same thing. You know, run it until the condition is false. So here's the examples. I equals 0, do open bracket, I plus plus, and while I is not equals to 3. So 1, 2, 3, and if it's not equal to 3, then it will stop. Then once it reaches probably, yeah, once it reaches 3, then it stops, right? So if I do this and I do I equals 3 and then I run it, it'll run once. See? Oops. Where is it? So right here, when I did I equals 3, right here, and then you see it ran once, right? But we iterated I plus plus, and because we iterated I plus plus, it went to 4. So 3 went to 4, and we skipped this condition, and it was over. It's game over, right? It actually has to be less than or equal to 3, and then it won't run. See? But it ran it at least once. Okay? Does that make sense? It'll run it at least once. See? It runs at least once. But if you do a while loop, it won't run at least once. It'll check the condition before. Okay? Let me clean this up. What do I have here? Is that right? I think that was it. Okay. I'll fix it later. All right, so I equals 0, I plus plus, number is I is equal, oh, right here, yeah, there you go. That's why. Is that why? Oh, not equal. There you go. All right, so let's look at this one. Do I plus plus number I until I equals 3. Okay? So until I equals 3, when it does equal 3, it did 1, 2, 3. Okay? So it'll just keep going till that condition's not met. So once it reaches 4, then it will run. All right. That is it for loops. Thank you for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe. If you like the content, let me know. I heard someone wanted to look at Azure Sentinel, so I'll be working on a tutorial on that as well. Thank you, everyone.